Hello and welcome to the False Start Fantasy Podcast with your hosts Cameron and Josh. On this week's episode, we're going to talk about NFL's Week 13 and look ahead to Week 14. And we got a super special announcement this week going on because for the first time in the history of the podcast, we have not one, not zero, not three either, two super special guests joining us, Sam and Preston. Got both of y'all. How you guys doing today?
I'll start. Not too bad. Not too bad.
Well, don't get too
Yeah, I'm
excited.
vibing.
Sam, how you doing?
Just vibing along.
Preston.
Playoff attention.
All right. Well then, not to be forgotten about, of course, I got my favorite co-host of all time, the greatest co-host perhaps in the history of fantasy football podcasts, Josh Whopper Newshafer. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. This is a pretty good week for me so far.
Yeah, I can imagine. You decided to destroy everybody in fantasy football this year. You gonna bench everyone just on the way out? Just let it be. Let your guys rest. Get some time off.
Thought crossed my mind, but at this point, I got Preston to uphold, so might as well stick with it.
Hey, go for that undefeated season. I think it's happened before, has it?
We came close. Our first year in this league, I lost one game.
All right. Well, speaking of losing, we'll go ahead and jump into the first matchup here. We're a heartbreaking loss. I lost to Bandon and am now 7-6, despite the second most points scored in the entire league. Really, what this came down to was I had two players do well, Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams, and he had three players do well in DeAndre Swift, Tyreek Hill, and DK Metcalf. But I'm going to throw it to a special guest right here because, Preston, I want you to talk to me about Tom Brady and how you're feeling about how he's done this year.
Well, personally, I think it's been rather interesting. The man's 45 years old. For his age, I think he's definitely doing better than a lot of people would expect. But definitely been different this season, considering, obviously more losses than people expected. But that game against the Saints, pardon me, the comeback win wasn't looking very pretty at first. But I wouldn't call myself a big fan of Tom Brady, but he's doing his job.
Yeah, the GOAT's the GOAT, right?
I won't call him that, but
you won't call him that?
That's how a lot of people feel. So
that's how a lot of people feel. Preston, who is the GOAT?
Ooh, that's a tough question.
If it's not Tom Brady,
this man's
about to
he's on the list. No.
Brock Purdy, isn't it? It's Brock Purdy. I thought so.
Yes.
All right. Well, then, Sam, talk to me. What jumps out to you in this matchup here?
I think there was a pretty heavy underperformance from George Pickens. A lot of people saw him as a pretty good waiver weapon, including Josh, when he was telling me that I should have chosen him, but I personally didn't think it was a great choice, and that's why I didn't pick him.
Well, Isaiah McKenzie did so much better, so I think he made the right choice.
Yeah, the Atlanta Falcons are pretty bad, so yeah.
Steelers were able to get the win, but with not as many points as you'd expect. Josh, though, talk to me about what we're seeing here from the Bills backfield, as Singletary put up 11.1 points, but he was not the guy on that running back room.
So, from what I did see on the game, granted I didn't watch all of it, it looked like he's still the primary actual runner when you get closer to the goal line. So he does have those valuable touches at least, but if anything, I'd say right now it's kind of more like a 50-50 split. He's still getting a little bit more of the running work. However,
Mic on.
James Cook, is that right? Is that the right name?
Yeah, James Cook.
Looks like he's getting a little bit more of the receiving work compared to what Singletary was getting. So,
Mic off.
PR, Singletary gets a touchdown from this point moving forward.
Mic on.
Okay. Other thing to talk about with this matchup, especially, was that the Seahawks were only able to put up 8 defensive points. I know I don't like talking about defense, but only 8 points against the Rams with the backup quarterback, both their wide receivers out, and Cam Akers somehow doing stuff on the ground. Not sure what we're going to do there. If the Seahawks are in another good matchup, I don't know how confident you can be that they'll be a great option, but we kind of knew about the Seahawks moving in. I'll go ahead and move on to our next matchup here, where we had Josh taking it to Preston. Preston, what went wrong for the team this week?
I didn't think anything necessarily went wrong. I mean, Mark Andrews kind of underperformed a little bit there, but I wouldn't necessarily say anything went wrong on my side. It just everything went right on Josh's end.
Mic off.
That's kind of how I'll see it.
Mic on.
I got you. Josh, talk to me more then about what went right for the team.
Preston put it pretty well. Most things went well. Kelsey underperformed, however, on my team, and Derrick Henry had a rough week as well. And the Titans, whenever they get behind, he becomes obsolete, and then Kelsey, one of those weeks where for once he's not the number one tight end. And that couldn't really have asked for anything better this week.
Yeah, everybody doing well. Tyler Lockett, and as we just saw, DK Metcalf putting up a lot of points. But Sam, talk to me about what you think could be improved from these two teams moving into next week. I know Preston's knocked out a playoff. Josh has already secured it, but we're looking at playoffs here, and we're looking at the future. Are you worried about any of these players in the playoffs?
I'm not gonna lie. I think Josh looks to be a pretty formidable force after going completely undefeated. And like you said, there's really no chance for Preston. Ethan, I think, has one of the scariest looks for trying to make the playoffs because he's climbing down the ranks, in my opinion.
Yeah, Ethan's definitely falling. The guy I want to point out here was that Ramondre Stevenson, despite the 13.8 points he put up there, had a 98% snap share. That leads all running backs in the NFL last week, followed only behind Travis Etienne and Saquon Barkley, who were at 88%. So 10% less than Ramondre Stevenson. That guy is a bell cow in that offense. And if they weren't just so behind and the Bills were just taking it to them and they were forced to throw, I think that he would have gotten a lot more points. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next matchup here where we have Brandon versus Chris. And Chris was able to put the hurt onto Brandon and move on to 8-5, putting himself in 4th place in the league. And Josh, I know it's going to hurt, but talk to me about how good Joe Burrow is.
Josh, I'm speaking. All I gotta say is the king has returned. Screw you guys. I'm winning this thing. You're losing, Josh. Bye-bye.
I like it.
Apparently my voice has changed a little bit, but
yeah, that was interesting. Was that a spokesperson for you, an anger management or anger translator for you? Was that what was happening there?
I wouldn't quite put it that way, but yeah, we'll go with that. Like I said, I feel pain about that game.
Yeah, it was definitely a sad one to watch losing. But Joe Burrow, we already knew he was a must start, but is he in a QB1, like elite QB fantasy option moving forward?
I'd say rest of the year, that's top 5. I think they got good matchups moving forward. I could be wrong on that one, but at least top 10 moving forward. Yeah,
it was definitely a good game. Sam, I'm going to throw the next question to you. Aaron Jones went out with an injury and then was able to come back into the game, but was only able to put up 10 points. They have the bye this week. Are you a little worried about Aaron Jones? Are you thinking maybe the Aaron Jones owner needs to pick up A.J. Dillon, or perhaps someone else needs to pick up A.J. Dillon as a backup and see what they can get out of him?
Mic off.
Honestly, I haven't paid too
Mic on.
much attention to Aaron Jones, but I think if injury is questioned, A.J. Dillon may be in a couple people's foresights if they're smart.
Okay, I like it. And Preston, talk to me lastly here. We had a lot of different moving pieces here. It seems like everyone on Brandon's team decided to have about 10 to 20 points, and then everyone on Chris's team decided to have over 20 points. Is there anyone on either of these two rosters that you're worried about in the playoffs?
I would say Taysom Hill. I mean, honestly, I see him. He has his moments where he's either outperforms everyone or he severely underperforms. And I feel like the Saints are still trying to kind of figure out how to use him. But other than that, I see a lot of faces here that should be just fine in the playoffs.
Yeah, and the last guy here I wanted to highlight was Garrett Wilson, 24.2 points, an awesome week for him against the Vikings. I know the Vikings have a bad defense, but Garrett Wilson really worked for every target, every catch that he had. Great performance from there. Love to see the rookie putting in work. Hope to see him continue as he's on many of my rosters. Next matchup we'll go into here is Ethan versus Kyler. Pretty down week, I think, for both people here, but an especially down week for Ethan. And I'm going to throw it back to you, Preston, because is Ethan's season over without Lamar Jackson?
I think that depends if he manages to pick up a quarterback who might be kind of a surprise. I mean, I'd say not at all, as long as he's able to fill his shoes somehow. Not really sure how, without looking at it, quite how he'd be able to do that, but it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, the other guy on Ethan's team to worry about, Josh, is Kenneth Walker. I know you're a Seahawks fan if you have to be a NFC West fan, but every running back on the Seahawks roster got injured, and they were picking up guys off of free agency that you have not heard of in 4 years. Josh, is there any value in the Seahawks running back? Let's say DJ Dallas ends up being the only guy who's healthy by the end of the week. Is he then a guy you want to start, or is it just a bad room?
I mean, if you're desperate,
Mic off.
Until Kenneth Walker comes back, I would probably avoid
Mic on.
Seahawks unless one of them pops off. Maybe stash DJ Dallas or one of them if you have the roster space at this point, but generally avoid it. But I'm okay with that because that means good things for Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, absolutely. They're definitely going to have to pass more. I know they've been relying a lot on the run, but going to have to force some passes. Sam, I haven't talked to you yet about this matchup. Who's popping out to you? Who's your eyes immediately drawing to when you look at this matchup here?
I'm not gonna lie. I think Nick Chubb put up a pretty underwhelming performance. I mean, 8 points. That's not really a lot or not really what we were seeing towards the beginning of the season.
Yeah, definitely a good point. Was definitely a down week for Nick Chubb, and against the Texans, who have one of the worst, if not the worst, defense in the entire NFL. And we got to see that fully on display there, as honestly they had one of the worst offenses too. But Nick Chubb just wasn't needed much, so I just don't think they used him. We'll see what they're like in the games moving forward. But lastly, the guy to talk about here, Cam Akers put up 19 points. I believe this guy was a third or fourth round pick at the start of the year. Finally paying off on some of that draft capital. They're going to have to throw. Their quarterbacks can't throw, so they're going to dump it off. And, hey, Cam Akers can be there. He could be that guy for it. I think Tyson Williams will be a receiving back, but Cam Akers can catch too. And it's going to be interesting for all of these players, seeing what they can do in the playoffs. Justin Herbert, though, 18.1 points against the Raiders, who have a terrible defense. A little disappointing there from him. But we'll go ahead and move into the next matchup here. And Sam, what went right getting double Billy's points this week?
I'm not going to lie. I think my team had a bit of a thing for the number 16. I mean, even one of my players on my bench had 16 points. So consistency was one of the things, I think. And Amara St. Brown, wow, what a performance. It's 34 points.
Looks like we might have lost Sam there as he's cutting in and out. Yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown, an awesome 34.6 points. I'll throw it to you, Josh. Where did he leave off?
Like Sam was saying, basically everyone did well on his team. The only one you might be able to look at and say he didn't have a good week was Foster Moreau, and he had 4.2. He's a tight end. That's kind of normal for tight ends if they don't catch a touchdown. So, yeah, overall, just a pretty solid week from him. One to worry about maybe Ayuk, but that's about it.
Yeah, definitely. And Preston, I'm going to throw it to you. Talk to me about Billy's team. I know he is out of playoffs, but those players are on people's rosters in other leagues. And are any of these guys someone that you're even thinking about dropping at this point? Or is anyone like they'll bounce back?
I mean, obviously you have to drop Jimmy G because he's injured out for the season. I mean, he's the first one you'd have to drop and replace. Cordero Patterson has been rather... I had a bit higher expectations for him this season, but
charge complete.
It hasn't been a name I've been hearing as much as I was towards the beginning of the season. Those are the only two I can really think of just looking at it right here. But yeah, I think he definitely got hurt pretty bad well, they both did, I guess, by the injury. But yeah, with Jimmy Garoppolo going out, I think those are shoes you have to fill, even though you are out of playoff contention. But
yeah, we talked about Jimmy G going out, and Debo and Ayuk. I'm definitely worried about them as well as Kittle moving forward. I don't think any of those three players will be elite receiving options. You kind of hope that those two wide receivers can be wide receiver twos, and you hope that Kittle can get a touchdown here or there, but just a big worry on workload for them moving forward. And honestly, a worry on Christian McCaffrey's workload because when he gets all of the touches, that's usually when he gets injured. So have to see how they manage that. Definitely going to be worth picking up a backup there in San Francisco as there's a lot of question marks there. Let's see what happens. But we'll go ahead and move into, I believe this is the last matchup, Malachi versus Jaden. Malachi moving on up to the third place spot, taking that away from me, that dick, and destroying Jaden, stomping him into the dirt. An awesome performance there from his two starting running backs and Jalen Hurts, and I think they were really leading the way. But Sam, are you back yet, or are you still having connection issues?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I think I'm back then.
All right. Well, then talk to me about the players on Jaden's team. Let's say every single one of them was dropped, which we hope Jaden doesn't do. Who on his team would be worth picking up?
Honestly, I can see some value in Jonathan Taylor.
Mike off.
And if you're big on Deshaun Watson, like a lot of people seem to be, Donovan Peoples-Jones might not be a bad pickup if you think he'll do well.
Mike on.
Yeah, he's putting up a steady target number. But Josh, talk to me. Is there anyone else on Jaden's roster that you would think, oh, that guy should definitely still be on a roster moving forward? Or are there just really a Darius Slayton, Cortland Sutton? Are they just not worth rostering moving forward?
Cortland Sutton at this point, he's drop worthy. He's just worth not even being on a roster at this point because I don't know what's up with Denver's offense, but holy cow, they stink. Derek Carr is a streamer, so depending on what you have for quarterbacks, possibly. Mara, Taylor, you're just hoping Kamara catches passes and Taylor can bell cow, basically. On Schultz, just because of the way the tight end landscape is, you kind of have to have them. Like, he has to be rostered somewhere at least. Darius Slayton's always a good flex worthy, and then I'm not going to bother talking about kickers and defense. Case.
Well, then we've talked about players that might be droppable, but Preston, is everyone on Malachi's roster someone that you would absolutely start every single week moving forward?
Looking at it here, it depends on who stays healthy. Christian McCaffrey for sure, if he's able to stay healthy. I mean, looking at it here, he put up 28 points. I mean, that's pretty good numbers, if you ask me. And then depending on how Joe Mixon, how his recovery goes, Samaje Perine, he's been popping off lately. Me being an Oklahoma fan, I've held him. He's had a place in my heart for a while now, but just been kind of waiting on his opportunity behind Joe Mixon to kind of show what he can do. And man took that opportunity and quite literally ran with it. So he's definitely someone in the long run. If Joe Mixon is someone who, isn't able to stay healthy, he's definitely someone I would continue to start.
Yeah, Zach Taylor today said that if Joe Mixon is healthy, he's the starter, but I am not seeing bad things from P. Ryan. I think he's outplaying him for sure, and I am really liking him. And this is really interesting to me. He's only a year older than Christian McCaffrey. I thought he was a much older running back, but really he still has definitely some juice in him, and we're seeing that for sure. Well, that concludes the weekly matchup review. We're going to take a look at the standings here, and obviously the biggest tragedy here is that I have fallen out of playoffs, now an entire game behind. Me and Bandon are trying to fight tooth and nail to get back into those playoffs, but Chris and Malachi with some super good teams really peaking at the right times are taking that third and fourth place spot, and unless they lose a game or two and Bandon or I can sneak back in there, those guys have secured their spots for now, and Ethan definitely someone who's feeling a little hot seat there in the 2 spot. But Josh, anything here pop out to you?
I mean, for starters, still undefeated. I got to point that out a little.
I don't think that's important.
Ethan's team, he's 2nd seed right now. I think earlier when I was talking to Chris, I was saying, yes, you definitely got W this week. You're going up against the corpse of Ethan's team because he has enough healthy players to fill out his team count in the buys as well. So definitely going to have to hit the waiver weapons on that one. Get there. But, I mean, we got, we got 6 people still competing for 3 spots. A little bit over, not quite half the league has been eliminated at this point, but still competition for those last 3 spots, and very interesting.
Yeah, Sam, do you want to jump on the Ethan hate club? I think you talked about him earlier for a moment.
Yeah, I think Josh put it best. That team is definitely a shell of what it used to be. I mean, he started to look like a pretty formidable force, but wow, it's not looking so great.
Yeah, I think what's keep going really well for him is that he only has under 1,400 points against him, with only Josh ahead of that. But Preston, talk to me. Does Sam still have a chance? I know Sam's in the call, but if he has no chance, you can go ahead and tell him that.
There's always a chance until there isn't. Until he's completely out, I think he's got kind of a shot. It just depends how everyone above him, how their season goes. But yeah, if he keeps winning, he's on a 2 win streak of 2 right now. But things go crazy. Things happen sometimes. So I won't ever say there's not a shot until there absolutely 100% isn't.
I like it. There's a vision there. Not dead yet, Sam. I think you can do it. Going up against Malachi this week, who is looking really strong, but there's definitely still a chance there. Bandon, it's got to beat Josh. He's going up against Josh this week. Undefeated right now. If he wants a chance at playoffs, he has to win this week. We'll see what he can do. Malachi and Chris are, as I mentioned, in those 3rd and 4th place spots, but it's definitely coming down to it as we get there. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next segment here where we have the waiver weapons. Josh, talk to me. What is a waiver weapon?
So, a waiver weapon is someone who is currently, at least in our league, on the waivers. It can be someone who, let's just say, for some reason, God forbid, Christian McCaffrey would be on the waivers. Malachi, maybe he just messed up. Definitely a waiver weapon there. But normally you're looking at guys like Kenny Pickett, Mike White, Isaiah McKenzie. People that probably aren't in the roster right now, but you never know.
Yeah, we like to use the waiver weapons, give people a chance at some sleeper players who might have a good chance. And you can see our hits and misses chart there on the right. But last week, Kenny Pickett was a QB 20, just did not get that second touchdown that would have put him in the QB 1 range, but finished as a QB 20. Mike White, QB 7, had a great week, and Isaiah McKenzie was a miss from the absent Sam, but he's got a good one this week, as Isaiah McKenzie was a wide receiver 47, but did finish higher than George Pickens. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it with Josh's pick this week.
Alrighty, so mine is Corey Davis. Now, part of me was like, why the hell am I picking a Jets wide receiver? Just thinking back to years and years of the Jets being trash, for lack of a better term. But with Mike White, the Mike White as the quarterback moving forward, hopefully, please don't put back in whatever his else name. I try to forget this guy anyways.
Mike on.
They're up against the Bills this week. If they're going to compete with the Bills, they have to pass. Which means Garrett Wilson can't do it all. You got to throw to someone else, and Corey Davis is still their second receiver, wide receiver 2, so who knows? Maybe if he gets a touchdown, maybe a few slant passes, might work his way into being wide receiver 2.
I like it. We'll go ahead and jump then next to Sam's pick.
All right. So, as you know, I'm pretty high on some Lions receivers. I have Amon-Ra on my team. I think this week DJ Chark is going to put up some decent numbers, hopefully some pretty good ones. I think that the Vikings are standing as a mighty giant, but they fall hard. And I think they might fall this week to the Lions. If not, be a pretty close matchup.
Mike on.
I think that that DJ Chark could definitely see some pretty good numbers.
All right, I like it. We'll go ahead and jump then to my waiver weapon of the week, where I have Hunter Henry. I've been on a little bit of a downswing here, but I'm liking Hunter Henry this week. Cardinals are 32nd against tight ends, and Matt Patricia's offense is absolutely dogshit horrible at doing anything past 10 yards. And hey, that's where these tight ends live. And honestly, this kind of surprised me, but Hunter Henry's only 28 years old. This guy is still definitely in the prime of his tight end years, and when he's not blocking, he can definitely go out there and catch some routes. He has a higher target share than John Smith and is able to put in some work. So I like him against the Cardinals this week. But he also went to Arkansas, and they are playing KU this weekend. So he may be distracted by the fact that KU is going to win 53. Or sorry, it may be distracted, not this weekend, but in a few weeks, maybe distracted by the fact that Jalen Daniels is healthy and is going to be dominating his old school, but let's hope that doesn't affect him yet, as we want Hunter Henry to have a good week. We'll go ahead and move to the fourth waiver weapon. I know we never have 4, but we've got 4 this week. As Preston, tell me the story with Kenyan Drake.
You know, I kind of overlooked a couple things, to be honest. You know, Kenyan Drake, looking at it here, he has potential this week. You know, Lamar Jackson just got injured, so you kind of shift your focus to the run game a little bit until, you know, Lamar is able to come back and, you know, be RB1 for the Baltimore Ravens. Anyway, you know, 47% of the backfield, you know, last week of the snaps last week. You know, it's definitely a possibility that he's able to kind of shine if given the chance. You It's kind of a 50-50 ball in the air, I feel. But, the Ravens, going against Pittsburgh, ranked 13th, just barely in that top half for defense. I don't see anything going incredibly like life-changingly well for him, but he definitely has potential here.
I like it. I've seen the vision. Well, none of us chose a QB this week, so I'm going to throw 3 QB names out here, and I'm going to go down the line, starting with you, Josh. Which of these QBs is going to finish the highest? So we've got Tyler Huntley, the backup quarterback for the Ravens against the Steelers. Brock Purdy, 49ers against the Bucks. And we've got Mike White against the Bills. Which of those 3 QBs is finishing the highest?
Sure it does repeat itself, so I gotta say Mike White on this. My bad, the Mike White on this one.
Okay, Sam, throwing it to you. Which of those QBs is finishing the highest?
I gotta agree. I think Mike White. The Bills' defense was looking pretty nasty last year, and this year they just haven't been the same, in my opinion.
Okay, Preston.
I'll go down the list. I'll say Mike White. We kind of seen what he can do. He kind of has, he's obviously a leader and he has the respect of the team and a lot better than Mr. Cougar Whisperer. Yeah, I got Mike White and then Brock Purdy second, just very close second. I think he has an opportunity and, the 49ers offense is kind of set up nicely for him to just get right into it. Had a kind of an underwhelming college career, hence why he was picked dead last in the draft. But, Brock Purdy sitting at second on that list, I mean, he's got a chance.
Yeah, there were reports during training camp that Brock Purdy was actually outperforming Trey Lance, so a little interesting there, and I'm going to go ahead and pick him. I like his chances. I think Brock Purdy could really do something with the 49ers. We know that the 49ers aren't putting a lot of pressure usually on their quarterback. It's just going to come down to, can he get some touchdowns? Because Mr. Irrelevant, that is not very easy to do. And actually, interesting fact, that Brock Purdy is the first Mr. Irrelevant in the history of the NFL, to complete a forward pass. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if anybody else knew that, but I thought that was pretty cool. Well, that concludes our waiver weapons. Did I say it? I'm picking Brock Purdy to finish the highest of those 3 quarterbacks, but we do have a mailbag question this week. If you had to pick one rookie to finish the season strong and improve their fantasy football value before the season's over, who would it be? Preston, I'm starting with you. I'll let you go last in the last question, but this time you're going first.
I have 2 guys here that I could kind of hope they make a last end of the season push here.
Okay.
First guy is Kenneth Walker at Seattle. I would love to see him continue to be successful, and we've seen what he can do, and this last home stretch here, I think he could definitely make a push. And then the other guy is George Pickens. I don't expect him to, just because the Steelers' offense is just horrible. It's probably one of the worst offenses I've seen in a while. Definitely not the worst I've ever seen. However, there's so much potential and there's so much talent here that's just straight up being wasted in George Pickens and Kenny Pickett. So I would love to see George Pickens make a push, kind of pop off, show what he can do. But I think he's definitely being held back by his offensive coordinator. So those are the 2 guys that I would like to see.
Okay, not a Matt Canada fan. Sam, I'm going to throw it to you. Which rookie do you like?
Well, I'll first start off with, I know, Josh, how you feel about Jets wide receivers, but I gotta say Garrett Wilson kind of hasn't had too bad of a season towards the ending. And I know he's not an offensive player, but I think that Aiden, what's his name? Aiden Hutchinson?
Yeah.
Is that what his name is?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think he's been adding some pretty good value to the Lions defense, and he's been kind of scary.
I like that. I like that. Putting in a defensive player. Garrett Wilson right now, the wide receiver 19, and Josh and I are in a IDP league, which is defensive players, and I've got Aiden Hutchinson in that, so I'm also hoping he does well. But Josh, speaking of that league, you were knocked out of the playoffs, or didn't even make the playoffs, but I'll let you answer first before you get into that disappointment. What rookie do you think is going to finish out strong?
So my original answer actually was going to be Garrett Wilson, but I'm going to go to my second option now. We haven't said his name yet. He's only averaged 2 touchdowns ever since he started playing, basically.
Okay.
Watson. Don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be back, but moving forward, he's been averaging basically ever since he got back from his injury 2 touchdowns a game. He only played in 4 games really since he came back, but still, that's 8 touchdowns already. He's been phenomenal. He's been getting 20-plus points per week, it seems like. And if Aaron Rodgers comes back next season for Green Bay, of course, who knows at this point? Oh, now he has his new, maybe not Devontae Adams level, but he has his new primary targets, and that's something that Aaron Rodgers always. So I think with a good outing there, Christian Watson could definitely improve his value before next season.
Yeah, Christian Watson is really looking like one of those special players. We hope that he can start really catching every ball that's thrown at him, but we'll see moving down here. I hope the Packers miss the playoffs, but hope good things for Christian Watson. The guy that I have selected, and I can't believe nobody said him, was Jameson Williams of the Lions. Now, Jameson Williams, the reason that he was not the first wide receiver taken was there was all this question about his injury history and the fact that he had this ACL tear. Not many teams can spend a first-round pick on a wide receiver that can just be bad for most of their first year, as obviously he couldn't play, but they activated him last week from IR. He didn't play anything, but he's really an elite talent, and I really want to see what he can do for the Lions, and they're going to be in some games where they need to throw. They want to win some games. They want to make it to the playoffs. So Jameson Williams, I think he's going to cement a spot for himself, and I think he finishes out strong. If I was in a place like Josh where, hey, I don't care if I win the next 2 weeks. I care what I do after that. I might be picking up a guy like Jameson Williams. Well, that concludes the questions for the mailbag. Did anyone else have any other rookies they wanted to mention or anything about the waiver weapons?
Good.
All right. Well, that does it for this week's episode of the Fall Start Fantasy Podcast. Thank you all so much for listening, and a big shout out and thank you to the 2 super special guests, Preston and Sam. Thank you guys. Did you have a good time?
I had a great time.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Always a good time talking about football, man.
Yeah, I like to hear it. All right. Well, anyone got anything else they wanted to add before we close out this week's episode?
Emaw.
Prove Chicago.
Emaw, yeah, that's right, Josh.
Big 12 champs.
Yeah.
We coming back next season. Don't worry. You only have to hold on to that trophy 1 year. Sooners are coming, baby.
By the time you guys are good, you'll be on a different conference. So.
Hey, we gotta take back that trophy before we leave.
All right. Well, that does it for this week's episode. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll be back next week before week 15 begins. So be on the lookout for our next episode so you can be ready before the ball is snapped. Thank you all, and goodbye.